this issue here, which is Prophet Bushiri to be deported. Now, we all know what had happened to Prophet Bushiri recently. He was arrested with his wife about a week, I think, tomorrow. And the charges that was presented to them in this current arrest. Remember, this is not the first time he was arrested. You know, he had been initially arrested last year for money laundering and also for not disclosing certain financial statements. So it was basically financial crime that he was arrested in the first place. And he was arrested. Here he is. So he was arrested, and we know that he was arrested and with his wife. And a lot of people would always be wondering, why do you arrest? They call him the prophet. I don't call him prophet. You know, why do you arrest Bushiri with his wife? Why don't you just arrest him alone? So, guys, it doesn't work like that. You cannot arrest him alone because he's in business with his wife. So whatever business documentation you have or you see that has to do with his business, his wife is inclusive. So they are the directors of the business. So they basically control the business. So whether she is fully involved in the business or not fully involved in the business, but by virtue of the fact that she's the director, she is responsible for any question that the police, that the authorities may want to know. And if there is any sort of contravention, the authorities would not just take him alone, they would take the both of them. And that was what they did in the first place last year. So next year in July, they're going to begin a trial for that set of atrocities that happened. So now he was arrested last week, totally on a different level. If you haven't watched the last video that I made around, you know, the investment schemes and how it worked, and how I actually forgot, you know, I should have actually put that there. Maybe I would check for it and put it out here just to show you a proof of somebody who actually paid money into this investment scheme and never got his money back. And that is the main reason why Bushiri and his wife are being arrested right now. They ran a pyramid scheme, the investment scheme. You put in money, they promise you profit, 600% profit after 60 days. You can put in 200,000, 300,000 rand, and people put in money. And most of the people, if not all of the people that put in the money, were members of his church. And it was his pastors, his people that ran the scheme, right? So they put in money for 2 years, 3 years now. They never really got to see any of their profits. Let me see if I could actually, you know, I could actually get. I'm not sure if I can get it. I'm trying to see how I can actually get. Let me see. Get a proof of the people. Some of the people who paid. You know, some of the people who paid money. They paid money into this MCS investment, and that's what it's called, MCS investment. Because I think you need to, yeah, I think you need to see this. Because maybe when we see it, then you would get to understand part of what I'm actually talking about. What is going on here? Anyway, let's see. Let me take it here. and then put it here quickly so you could see, because I want you to have an idea, because a lot of people have ideas that they feel that let's see. Uh, you have to forgive me. I wasn't totally ready because I just arrived Cape Town this evening. So this is I'm not sure you're going to be able to see these clearly. Let me just take this off. I'm not sure you're going to be able to see this clearly, but this is a proof of payment. Somebody who paid 20,000 rand, and this was paid to MCS, which is Measure Chain Solutions. Method of payment is EFT, and it was paid on the 4th of April 2018. 20,000 rand. This is just one of the so many proofs that I have. Some people paid 300,000 rand, 100,000 rand, and you can see MCS there. It's actually the other way. I should have flipped it for you to be able to see it. So these are investment. These are monies that people paid into MCS, and he is the head of MCS, right? And he has a lot of other people working for him. Remember, a few days ago, I introduced you to a gentleman called Joseph Wilder. And this is Joseph. He was the one, he was the brain behind Bushiri's businesses in Forex and investment pyramid schemes. He was the brain behind it. But then he fell out with Bushiri, so they parted ways. But Bushiri continued. He was the other guy that was actually first arrested. His wife was arrested at home. This guy was arrested at the airport, at the OR Tambo International Airport in Johannesburg. He was allegedly about to evade the police. He was just about to leave the country, to skip the country, and he's in detention right now. He's only gonna be appearing in court on Friday. Is it Friday, which is the 30th, to be able to see if he can get bail, him and his wife. So you would not see him appear with Bushiri because they were arrested 2 different times, So what happened? Now they put in this money, and now they have been complaining to the police. People lost money and all that. So remember the charges against him. The charges against him are for money laundering and theft. These were the charges that were against him. Money laundering and theft. So theft, he stole people's money. Money laundering, he laundered money. He took money out of South Africa illegally. He took money out of the country illegally. Now, until a few days ago, when the Department of Home Affairs, for those of you guys who are in Holland, Ghana, Belgium, the USA, I would have to break it down for you just so you could understand the way the immigration and the way the law, the authorities work here. So now the Department of Home Affairs here handles anything immigration and birth and deaths and people coming into the country and all that kind of stuff. So when he appeared in court, they actually were trying to say, look, we want to make sure that he doesn't get bailed. So we want to say that his documentation is not okay. But then the court says, no, that has to wait until he pleads, until they get over this case. That the other case, the first case, which was the first one for money laundering. So which is going to be next year. So right now, the Department of Home Affairs is actually appealing, just so his immigration status, the fact that there are a lot of irregularities in his immigration status and his wife, not just him, that should be included in the charge. So now if he's included in this second charge, which he is in jail right now for, then it's going to be it's not possible for him to get bail. Because first, he's going to be a flight risk. How do you give bail to somebody who is in the country illegally? He's in the country illegally. What do you mean, Solomon? Let me read some stuff for you. Right? In addition to the charges raked against Bushiri and his wife, which include fraud, money laundering, and theft. So these are the first three major charges: fraud, money laundering, and theft. So now the fourth accusation is for contravening certain provisions of South Africa's Immigration Act. That's the fourth one. He contravened. So that means you didn't obey the Immigration Act of South Africa. Because you are a non-South African, you have to obey the Immigration Act in South Africa. So here, the Department of Home Affairs officials who had actually served him notice, because initially they had served him a notice and they said, look, we have discovered that your permanent residencies, your papers that allows you to stay in South Africa were actually fraudulent. You have 30 days to explain why it's that way. Okay? You have 30 days. So in addition to that, they said you have 30 days. So these notices were actually served to them right from February and March last year. So that was against the first charge, which was money laundering. Right? So according to the legal document, Bushiri's application for permanent residency status was captured and granted by the officials in terms of an incorrect section of the Act, which occurred as a result of certain commissions or omissions on the applicant and his wife. So here is the deal. In South Africa, for you to get what we call permanent residency, you have to spend 5 years married to a South African, or you have to say 5 years working or in business. After 5 years, you apply for permanent residency. And after another 5 years, which is 10 years, then you can apply for citizenship. So permanent residency, like for you guys in the US, permanent residency is basically like a green card. So it allows you to work. You don't have to get a new visa. It allows you to do business. It allows you to just be in the country. You're basically like a citizen. It allows you to also have a South African identity card, which only citizens should have. So it allows you to have a South African identity card, right? So now they're saying his permanent residency's application was incorrect. It was given in the incorrect section. And that's what I think in the next few months or few weeks, we're going to be able to get to know. So it says when Bushiri was served the third notice, they let the people know that they served them a notice. That is the Department of Home Affairs went to them and served them a notice and said, look, your permanent residency is irregular. Because of that, we're giving you 30 days to make argument to the department why the permanent residency status should not be withdrawn. So they wanted to withdraw the permanent residency status. But before you do that, obviously, the law says you must allow the person to defend and explain why and how they got their permanent residency status. Right? So they gave them 30 days to be able to do that. But the court now said, no, you have to wait. Now, here's the problem. the people that actually, there are certain people, Home Affairs officials that were suspended. Yes, they were suspended. And they're the ones that actually sent him those documentation, but they were suspended for other reasons. And he's actually being suspected that the same people that were suspended and the same people that sent him those notices were actually the same people that helped him to get the permanent residency. So you see the contradiction. Maybe they're trying to cover their tracks, you know, and that's where the problem is. Maybe they're trying to cover their track. But I would tell you this. Let me actually, instead of just telling you, let me actually read it for you, just so you know. Just so you can hear it. That way it's gonna be more easier, right? So there was a statement that was made by the Minister of Home Affairs in South Africa, South Africa's Minister of Home Affairs. Now, for the Minister of Home Affairs to come out and make these statements, indeed, it shows that even if you're not suspecting that Bushiri and his wife did something wrong when it comes to their immigration, then you now know the seriousness of this case. Because the Home Affairs Minister of South Africa came out and says Bushiri and Mary had visited South Africa for the first time in 2009, right? Follow the dates. First time they visited South Africa, 2009, together, right? And understand the kind of visa they had. They had visitor's visa. So you come into the country, you have visitor's visa. Now, he said, upon their arrival, Bushiri registered companies and started conducting business. Now, that is not allowed. So right there, he broke the law. I've been in this country for over 10 years, right? At one point, my visa was a missionary visa, which was visitor's visa to do missionary work, because that was what I came into the country to do. First, I was a student before I became a missionary. So I knew there was no way I could get a job. So for me to go get a job using a visitor's visa, I'll be breaking the law. Now, what Bushiri did was the visitor's visa, he went and registered companies and opened businesses. Now, he's not supposed to do that. Visitor's visa does not allow you to conduct businesses, does not allow you to open businesses and do business, because it's a visitor's visa. There are requirements around it, right? So he says with the visitor's visa, they now, started companies conducting businesses, and this is not allowed in terms of visitor's visa and immigration law, and that is a chargeable offense. So right there in 2009, when they came in with visitor's visa, and he registered companies and started conducting businesses, it was wrong and illegal. Illegally, the immigration law does not allow you to do that. So that is a chargeable offense. That's one. So when Bushiri applied for permanent residency, so now he applied for permanent residency in 2015. He applied for permanent residency. Right? No, he applied for permanent, not in 2015, sorry. He applied for permanent residency and he declared under oath that he entered the country in 2015, when our record shows he entered in 2009. So when he applied for permanent residency, obviously you would say, this is the first time I entered the country and all that. And when he applied, he said the first time he entered the country was 2015. But remember, I told you, the first time they came in, according to the records that the Home Affairs had, is 2009 with his wife. They came in with a visitor's visa. So right there, that's a lie. So I'm telling you all this. This is not based on some journalist investigation or some people saying whatever. No. These are records that are there, kept. And this is the Minister of South Africa's Home Affairs Department saying this. So this is not something that I know they should go and investigate. No, it's there. So he said that's Bushiri's issue. And then, so for you to apply for permanent residency, and then you declared that you first came into the country in 2015, when you actually first came into the country in 2009, there's a problem there. And that in itself might push, the Department of Home Affairs, after investigation, to withdraw your permanent residency. And once your permanent residency is withdrawn, you're deported. Deportation. So there are two things that he's broken now. First one, you came with a visitor's visa, you registered businesses, started doing business. Illegal. I don't care if you see other people doing it, it's illegal. I couldn't do that myself. I've been married for going 8 years now. When you're married to a South African, after 5 years, you get permanent residency. You apply for permanent residency. I was just slow. I didn't even want to apply for permanent residency because I carry a Nigerian passport. I still carry a Nigerian passport. I'm not a South African citizen. I don't even have South African permanent residency. Right? I don't have that. I'm not in a hurry. I mean, I love the fact that I'm Nigerian. My wife is always like, no, you have to do that and all that. So I just recently applied. And you can only apply that after 5 years. Or of being married to somebody, or 5 years of working in South Africa legally, or doing business legally, not with a visitor's visa. If you have a visitor's visa, you cannot change after 5 years to permanent residency. No, it doesn't work that way. So that's Bushiri. How about Mary, his wife? Well, Mary, remember I said in 2009, they came into the country together with Bushiri with a visitor's visa. And then she re-entered the country in 2012. So between 2009, when she first came into the country, she had a visitor's visa. And then 3 years later, in 2012, she came back again, but then she had a permanent residency. She had a permanent residence visa, but you cannot get a permanent residence visa if you don't live in the country. And it takes 5 years for you to get permanent residence visa. But remember, this is 2009 when she first came with Bushiri, visitor's visa, and then 2012 she came back. Now she has a permanent residence visa. And here is the twist. Now, the permanent residence visa that she provided was given to her in 1997. Long before she entered the country. And you know what the minister said? That is fraudulent. So you first came into the country in 2009, right? With a visitor's visa. And then you came back 3 years later in 2012 with a permanent residency visa that was given in it was given in 1997. 97. How did that happen? Well, you first came to South Africa in 2009. But your permanent residence, when you came back the second time in 2012, you were showing a permanent residence permit that is actually was given to you in 1997. 1997. So it was given to you like 12 years earlier, before you even came to South Africa for the first time in 2009 with a visitor's visa. So if you had a permanent residence visa in 1997, why did you now use a visitor's visa in 2009? So that in itself, in the words of the minister, that is totally fraudulent. And you know what? Once you cannot prove anything, once Bushiri cannot prove why he is saying that he first came into this country, in 2015, when actually he first came to the country in 2009. If he cannot prove why he started business and registered businesses and started businesses with a visitor's visa when he's not supposed to, it's a straight up deportation. That's why I said Bushiri to be deported. This is just a matter of time. Now, I'm not telling you stuff that of course he's in court and he's going to be in court and he's going to fight it and all that kind of stuff, you know. And all that kind of stuff, and it's going to happen. They're going to fight it. They're going to try to bring explanation and all that kind of stuff. And this is actually going to make it difficult for them to get bail. They're going to be applying for bail tomorrow. And I think by Thursday, Friday, they're supposed to get a bail hearing. But you see, immigration issues are very serious issues. You know the guy called Pastor Timothy Omotosho. He allegedly, in South Africa here, abused young girls. So many of them. He was running a church. He has a music group and girls. You know, I know a lot of the girls. I investigated him. The police called me. I made my statement and all that kind of stuff. He's in prison going 4 years now. Been trying to get bailed. He's still trying to get bail. I know what? They said, how do we give this guy bail? Because we discovered that the way he got his permit to stay in South Africa was illegal. Not because the permit was illegal, but because one of the hospital documentation that he submitted as part of his application was fraudulent. He never went to the hospital to do the medical checkup to get that. Somebody just sat down somewhere and wrote it and signed and gave it. There was no record of, okay, he did this medical examination. Where are the records? No records. And these are serious offenses. A lot of you guys may think these are just easy, whatever. No, it doesn't work like that. These are serious offenses. These are serious offenses. And there are a lot of, you know, other African pastors or other pastors from outside South Africa that are in South Africa that are using fraudulent permits. Some of them came in with visitors visa, but they're running churches. You're not supposed to run churches when you have visitors visa. You're supposed to register. Some pastors from Zimbabwe and Malawi, there are a lot of pastors from Malawi that are with Bushiri's church that don't even have permits. They only have passports. But by virtue of the fact that they are from Southern Africa, they can come into South Africa for 30 days. And then every month they have to go out of the country and then come back again. Go out of the country and then come back. But then they are pastoring, but they are not allowed to pastor. So a lot of Bushiri's pastors that are Malawians and Zambians, they're not even supposed to be pastoring. If you go and check them, even I got news that even the guys that worked at his hotel, a Sparkling Waters Hotel in Rustenburg, there are a lot of people there that do not have the right documentation. They are from the Southern African region, so obviously you're allowed to go into any other Southern African country for 30 days, right? And they come in and now they have a job, they're being paid. You know why? Because they're not paying tax. So that in itself is so that's why, I come to tell you that Bushiri and his wife, Mary, are in deep trouble. Deportation is knocking at the door. Deportation is right there waiting for them. This is Mary and deportation. Their kids are in Malawi. Their kids do not stay with them here. Their kids are in Malawi. They live in Malawi. They have 2 kids. So they always go there. A part of trying to get the bail was actually saying that, look, they have young kids that are in Malawi and that they need to see and all that kind of stuff, So this is the issue that they are facing. And these are very, very serious issues. All you need to do is to look at the case of Timothy Omotosho, who is still in jail today, over 3 years later, still trying to get bail. But because of his immigration status, his permit in staying in South Africa, how it was obtained, no chance. He's still there. He's in St. Albans prison in Port Elizabeth. Still waiting for a trial that started, but then some hiccup. He's applied for bail almost like 8 times now. He's gone to the Constitutional Court, the highest court in the land, to push to get bail. And if you listen to the statement of the minister, like I just read now, the Minister of Home Affairs, this is the Minister of Home Affairs that's talking about this now. On Motoshaw's case, the minister didn't even need to say anything. But because it's Bushiri and it's a high profile person and it's a very serious issue, the minister himself came out and said, based on the record from Home Affairs, and the Department of Home Affairs is not going to sit down and cook up records. It doesn't happen. So the department, in the meantime, has issued a notice to Bushiri and his wife, asking them to clarify the discrepancies in their applications for permanent residency. So, clarify this. You said you came into the country in 2015 for the first time, but our records is saying you came into the country for the first time in 2009. What happened? You did that under oath. So understand, he didn't just write it. It was written under oath. So if you do that under oath, whatever you said in your statement under oath is the truth that the courts, that the government, that the Home Affairs would take. Even if you come out now to say, no, you made a mistake, or no, but this, you did that under oath. So the Bushiris are in trouble. The Bushiris are in trouble. Deportation is what is waiting for them. Would they get bail this week? Maybe they will get bail. They have some high-profile lawyers. Maybe they will not get bail. Maybe this is the beginning of their jail term. Maybe they will never get out of jail for the next 2 years until this trial is over. So even if the trial of theft, money laundering, and fraud, which are some of the charges that they're facing, even if they are not found guilty of theft, they're not found guilty of money laundering, they're not found guilty of fraud, they are still going to be deported because of their documentation. How did you obtain your permanent residency? There are discrepancies. Mary Bushiri, you first came into this country in 2009 with a visitor's visa, and then you came back in 2012 with a permanent residency permit that shows that you got the permanent residency permit in 1997. How do you explain that? Now they have to have a good argument to explain that. I think the Department of Home Affairs finally nailed them. If you've been praying for Bushiri to stop defrauding people, they got them. You heard it from me. From my position, where I know these are very serious issues. When it comes to immigration issues, these are very serious issues. And they got them. They get them. They have the money to fight. But it's very clear. If the Minister of Home Affairs will come out and say these things are fraudulent, then it shows the seriousity, how serious this issue is. How them as a Department of Home Affairs have actually investigated and seen it and said, look, these discrepancies here is a problem. Let me read this to you finally. Let me just read this to you. Now I'm going to read some sort of just information around when you break immigration laws in South Africa. Just like any other countries, they have their own immigration laws. What happens? You know, when you break immigration laws, what happened? Now, Let me just read this one actually. Now it says that, now here is what it says, you know, what deportation is and when can somebody be deported according to South African law, right? So in South Africa, deportation is the procedure performed by the Department of Home Affairs causing an illegal foreigner to leave the republic involuntarily or under detention in the terms of the Immigration Act. Typically, this person is returned to their country of origin. If a foreign national does not have legal stay in South Africa, they must leave the country. Otherwise, they can be arrested, detained, and be deported as set out by sections 32 and 34 of the Immigration Act. Right? So, I'll read this part again, where it says, this person is returned to their country of origin. If a foreign national does not have legal stay in South Africa, they must leave the country. So you see, if and when Bushiri and Mary, their documentation, their permanent residencies is discovered that it's illegal, that means they don't have legal stay in South Africa, so they must leave the country. So you can leave the country voluntarily, or you are being arrested, detained, and then deported. I know a lot of Zimbabweans and Nigerians who are here illegally who would be arrested. There's a place in the west, deep west of Johannesburg, where it's a detention center. So they keep people there. Once they get arrested, if they're here illegally, they keep them there, getting ready for deportation. Right? They put them there for some time. They get ready for deportation. Now, if you as a foreign national does not have legal stay in the country, if you don't have legal stay in South Africa, that's what's going to happen to you. And based on what I have seen and based on what I've investigated, from Mary's documentation, coming in with a visitor's visa in 2009, and then coming back again in 2012 with a permanent residency that was issued in 1997, there's a problem there that would show that she's in the country illegally. For Bushiri coming into the country in 2009 and then coming back and saying in your affidavit under oath that no, the first time you came into the country was 2015. So you lied. And then when you first came, you had a visitor's visa, you set up a business and you were conducting business, which that permit does not allow you to. So I would be the happiest person when Mary and Bushiri goes down. I'll be the happiest person. I've been praying for this for so long. And you see, because the Bible says in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 15, do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a worker who does not need to be ashamed, and who correctly handles the word of truth. And correctly handle the word of truth. Now, Bushiri is really a prophet of God. Did he handle the word of truth appropriately? What is the word of truth? The word of truth is the word of Jesus and how we should conduct ourselves and how we can show that we have character, how we can live in truth. But you can't say you live in truth when your documentation shows that you don't live in truth. So do your best to present yourself to God as one approved. Can they go to God? Can I go to God as one approved with somebody, being someone who has all these baggages? And I'm not saying we don't make mistakes. We do make mistakes. But for you to sit down and craft and write stuff under oath, lying, that's not a mistake. That's criminal. And like the minister said, that's a chargeable offense. So they're going to charge them. Once they cannot prove that, they're going to charge them. and then they're going to revoke their permits, and then they're going to become illegal aliens in South Africa, and then they have to be deported. But all this was done in the name of Christ Jesus, in the name of the gospel. That's the sad part of it. In the name of running a church, a ministry. That's the sad part of it. I'll be so happy to see the back of this couple out of South Africa. They have defrauded so many people. I know so many people that have lost money. I know so many people that have been brainwashed. I know people that were there. They were attacking me over the years. I've been talking about this for so many years. He has taken me to court so many times. Now, the people that were attacking me, that were members of ECG, a lot of them now are inboxing me. Solomon, thank you. I'm really sorry. I used to attack you. I used to say this about you. I didn't know the truth. Now my eyes are open. I don't even know some of them. But the joy for me is to see that God is opening the eye of his people. Because Christ is shouting, let my people go. I'll be happy to see not just Bushiri or Motosho and every other non-South African who is in the country illegally, doing ministry illegally, obtain their permanent residency and citizenship illegally. There are a lot of them that obtain it illegally. They said they were married to a South African, but it's a fiction. They were never married. They just got somebody to go, everything fraudulent. I cannot do something that's fraudulent. He's going to show up later. And how am I going to go before God and say, no, I correctly handles the word of truth, like it says in 2 Timothy 2:15. No, we cannot live lies. The more you keep putting lies after lies after lies, it's going to get to a place one day everything is going to crumble. And that's what is about to happen with the Bushiris. We're about to begin to see the gradual disintegration of their ministry, their lives, and their lies, gradually peeling and peeling and peeling. They have the money, they can get the best attorneys. They get some of the best attorneys in South Africa. From Barry Relu to Advocate Dalim Pofu, they can get all that. And they can go and shout, his people can hit the street and go to courts and say, no, free our papa. It doesn't work that way. Your papa is a criminal. He did stuff wrong. This is not persecution. This is for real. This is what they didn't do what is right. A lot of people have tried. There are people that have, even because I'm vocal about certain things, there is a group of pastors, South Africans, and people that said, no, they want to take me to the government, so they would deport me. They want the government to deport me because I've been talking about some men of God, or I've been exposing certain things, or I've been saying stuff. Now, how do you think? You think anybody that wants me deported, it shows that you do not know the constitution of your country. I am not in this country illegally. I've been in this country for over 10 years. I've never been in this country illegally. Go and check. I've never been, I don't do illegal. I've been in this country. So they will go, no, they want to go and I was like, you guys, you didn't sit down and ask yourself, what does the Constitution say about legal stay and illegal stay? You didn't take the time to go and investigate. Does Solomon has legal stay or not? Now, until you go do that, anything you say is you're just blowing, hot nothing. Yes, I admit there are a lot of pastors and non-South Africans who are in this country illegally, who has passports that are illegal. They marry South Africans, but then they were not married. Their permanent residency is illegal. Visas illegal. Some of them come here just to marry a South African. Once they get a permanent residency or a passport, they leave the woman. Meanwhile, they have a wife back home. And some of them are pastors. Some of them are pastors. We can't go around doing things illegally, guys. We cannot go around. What's the point for me to sit before you now and talk about all this, or talk about the love of God and who God really is, but then I'm doing stuff illegally. Then I'm in this country illegally. Then I just do illegal stuff. What's the point of the gospel? But people do not understand. Even the people that follow them, Bushiri and all these prophets, they do not understand. That's why you see them going to court and they're shouting and they're praying in tongues. You're praying in tongues for a criminal. God doesn't hear that kind of tongues. God only hears the tongues that comes from a pure heart and a true heart with a good intention. That's what God listens to. But you can't go around be praying in tongues. They've brainwashed you and hypnotized you, and you think this man of God is a saint. He cannot do nothing wrong. For some of them, even if you know he does something wrong, he has done something wrong, you still want to support him. What is going on with your brain? And you see why I want to see the back of Bushiri out of this country. They've caused enough pain to people. Like, enough is enough. You can't keep just going on and on and on and on. They brainwash people. At least we got Omoto Shaw down. Omoto Shaw is down. He's in prison. So he's sort of like disabled. Alf Lukau, he's run out of the country. He lives in Portugal now. Yesterday he had an event in Paris. Seems like he wants to relocate, out there. So at least his church is still going on here. But we know that without him, things are not going to work the way that it is. And he knows that coming back to this country, between you and I, there are a lot of investigation going on around him. From the police to the intelligence. I'm just telling you this. I know some of the details. A lot of investigation. So he got a wind of it maybe and left or whatever. I'm not sure. Now, if you can get Bushiri out of the way. Meanwhile, there are a lot of other local... Okay, all these guys we're talking about are not South Africans, right? So don't you ever think we're trying to target non-South Africans. I'm not even South African, so I've had my own share of, talk of war with locals, South Africans, like Mboro, Bishop Zondo. Actually, it seems like the South Africans are the one that are really against me much more than the foreigners. Yes, Lukau has taken me to court several times. I was sentenced to prison, suspended sentence to prison. Over time, my life has been threatened. They came to our home to kill my family. My wife was 7 months pregnant with our second son, and all that kind of stuff. And it's definitely painful. I had to move my wife out of our home to go to a new location because of the threats and the intimidation that was coming through. But that's what I signed up for. That's the gospel. The gospel is not all glamorous. The gospel is not just all easy and happy clappy. Anybody that tells you that is not telling you about the gospel. That's not the true gospel. The gospel will disgrace you, will bring you to shame. But Jesus is still Lord. It's the world that will bring you to that shame because you are standing on the truth of the gospel, not because the gospel wants to bring you to shame, but because there's going to be opposition when you stand for the gospel. When you stand for the truth, there's going to be opposition. And in the eye of the world, they will bring you to shame. But your reward for standing for truth, God is very much aware of that. So,